Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to Moneycontrol. I'm Karunya and we're here to tell you about Wipro's earnings which are slated for later today. My colleague Haripriya joins me and she tracks the IT space very closely. So she's here to help us understand what exactly to expect from Wipro this evening when they deliver it 3 members. Haripriya, thanks so much for joining in. I want to understand first up Infy and even HCL Technologies were able to surpass the market expectations. They did hand over a good set of numbers. Will Wipro be able to do the same? What is the expectation like?
The expectation for one, of course, like you said, Infosys and HCL both reported strong numbers actually. TCS had sort of a mixed quarter, but all of them sort of did surpass expectations, at least in some sense, either on revenue or on profits. Margins were still under pressure. But for for Wipro, that's not expected. They're expected to have CC revenue growth of about 1% quarter on quarter. And that falls within their estimate, but Wipro has sort of been under pressure. Their margins also have been under pressure. So it's not expected that they will sort of surpass the expectations that have been set. Also because, their margins have been under pressure for the last, like these 2 quarters ago, they said it had bottomed out. Last quarter, it had expanded by about 16 basis points. But this quarter, again, they have the impact of the salary hikes that they've given. And, that should be offset by, say, the rupee depreciation, what cost efficiency there is, etc. So margins also expected to expand only moderately and not by a significant margin. They don't, now the focus will sort of be on that deal. It's also expected to slow down as compared to the previous quarter.
Okay. But what about the forward-looking commentary? What about guidance? What are the expectations on that front? Because right now, yes, numbers are largely probably factored in by the market, but it's the guidance which could really surprise the street as well, like it did in case of Infi.
Yeah.
So tell us what is the visibility there and what are analysts saying? How could the commentary play out?
On the guidance front, for revenue, Q4 is where the main focus will be for now, where muted revenue growth is expected at about 0 to 2%. They're expecting muted growth for Q4 because Q3 is already a seasonally weak quarter for IT. It's also a sector that's been characterized by higher than expected furloughs right now for this quarter. Plus, there's also the impact of that discretionary spending that Wipro will have to factor in because they do have more sort of focus on these businesses that fall on the discretionary side, particularly say with Capco and things like that. So Q4 they expect it to be muted. Their net additions are expected to be lower. Their deal wins are supposed to be slowing down as well. So even though their margins say are at about 15 point, I think if I'm not wrong, the margin in Q2 was at 15.1. It's only expected to go up to about 15.5 or so, only about 30 or 40 basis points. And, it's not expected to even say this quarter or like even the next year, expected to cross that 17 range. Plus, of course, there's softness in Europe that we will see apart from the margin depreciation. So it's things that we will have to consider. One is we have to see what their guidance for Q4 will be, which obviously is expected to be about 0 to 2%. So muted on that front, not expecting anything great. Deal win TCV is expected to be lower unless they are seeing some sort of cost optimization deals and how they're moving away from vendor consolidation. Verticals they're seeing softness in also in terms of whether it's high tech or BFSI. And how that's expected to play out because this impact is expected to continue into next quarter as well.
Right. In the overall scheme of things, I mean, this week we've seen TCS, Infy, HCL Technologies. Now Wipro will be out as well today. In the entire scheme of things for IT Pack, where do you see Wipro stacking up in that order? And how would you say things have turned out for the overall sector this time around so far, going by the heavyweights performance?
So if I was to say rank them, Wipro probably come in about fourth in among these top four. But
Okay.
that's also because Infosys and HCL have put out a good set of numbers. They did beat estimates, and Infosys revised its revenue guidance upwards as well for the quarter from 15 to 16 to 16 to
Mm.
16.5. HCL has narrowed its guidance, but the numbers were definitely better than expected. TCS as well had a mixed bag in numbers, but all of them had say the deal pipelines were very good. They are seeing softness, so there was caution and commentary, but it wasn't a particular slowdown in that sense.
Mm.
Like not to the extent that we expected to see. For example, in case of Infosys, their deal pipeline went from 2.7 billion last quarter to 3.3 this time. I mean, that's their large deal
Yeah.
TCV, of course. And they said 36% is net new, and there were 32 deals. So that's a good indication, saying, despite the fact that we're seeing softness, and despite the fact that both Europe is more concerning than US, but the concerns do exist in some verticals and in some pockets. But that's a good indicator that the deal win pipeline continues. Although it's obviously moving towards cost efficiency and automation, rather than more like keeping the lights on kind of projects, rather than
Mm.
having more discretionary spending kind of projects. They seem to have done well on that front. Like there's caution, but there's also confidence. Wipro, in that sense, again, like I mentioned, discretionary spend is where I think we will see some trouble, because especially with Capcos, their acquisitions are more on the discretionary front. So how
Yeah.
those play out and how that
Mm.
impacts, we'll find out today.
Okay, and finally, what will be the top two, three things that you will be watching out for closely for from the fine print? Will it be hiring and attrition trends? Will it be order pipeline? I mean, what are the parameters that one should keep on their radar?
Order pipeline for sure. It is expected to be lower this quarter. I think in Q1 they had about 1.1 billion. In
Mm.
Q2 it was about 725 million, which was still good, but it is expected to slow down a little bit more. Hiring and attrition for sure. That attrition has been moderating, and this quarter their peers have obviously reported a significant reduction in the
Yeah.
net addition numbers as well. TCS obviously went into the negative, and they've had a lesser headcount than they did last quarter by about 2,200 odd employees. Infosys added about 1,600. HCL also added about 2,000 odd. But all of them had good net addition numbers last quarter. They started slowing down, but they were good last quarter. Wipro, on the other hand, last quarter in Q1 had about 15,000 employees. Last quarter was just 600. And that's sort of
Mm.
it might go up by a little bit, but that number is not expected to improve. So that will be an indicator as well if they do have issues on the hiring front, because Wipro is also, along with the very low net addition, also still has fresher onboarding issues. That sort of continues, where freshers are still waiting to be onboarded from last quarter, plus what the fresher addition they're looking for in this year, because they will be in campuses now as well. So apart from, say, order pipeline and the net addition, hiring has started to moderate. It's currently at about 23%. It's expected to trend down as well. So that trend is expected to continue, as it is continuing across the industry. More focus will also be on one verticals that have been impacted, where they're seeing softness. How is Europe playing out? What the pipeline for large deals is as well, and what they see going forward, as well as their guidance for Q4, what the outlook for FY24 also is. And mainly, if they have any clarity on the IT budgets. We haven't seen much. We're expected to see that by March or so, because clients will be firming up their IT spends about now. But if there's any clarity we see on the IT spends front as well for the next year.
Okay, great. Well, we're just a few hours away from the numbers. 4:45 p.m. today is when the press conference for Wipro will be kicking off. And of course, we at Moneycontrol will be getting you the live press conference, followed by a detailed analysis, a slice and dice of all the commentary and guidance that the management gives us. Haripriya, thank you so much once again for joining in. And yes, for our viewers, stay tuned. 4:45 p.m. is when the Wipro programming will start for the quarter gone by.